I thought I'd start this session by sharing a personal story with you. So, late last year, amid a very heavy COVID lockdown, like a lot of other people, I was spending endless weeks twiddling my thumbs at home. So, I decided I needed a little project that I could work on. So, I looked online and I thought I'd buy a cheap old car that I could tinker on. And I came across this beauty for a few $1,000s. And this is a photo of me standing in front of the car after it arrived on the back of a truck. So I was feeling pretty excited with this purchase and I thought I'd fill it up with fuel. And as I was leaving the petrol station, there was a frantic knock on my window, and the person knocking was pointing furiously at the back of my car. And when I got out, I could see that the fuel I'd just put in was pouring out all over the hot exhaust. And I didn't need to be Einstein to realise that the car could go up in flames at this point. And the petrol attendant came running out and said he'd called the fire brigade. So now let's look at two really distinct ways that this scenario can play out. So in the first scenario, let's call this the mind full way. In this scenario, my amygdala has been hijacked and my body is coursing with cortisol and adrenaline. And I'm feeling really overwhelmed by a load of negative thoughts, and they're all feeling true. And I'm really judging myself really harshly for being stupid enough to have bought this cheap car in the first place. And I'm really worried about this mess, and it's going to cost a fortune, and the fire brigade charge too. So I'm feeling really defined by the experience, and I've got no choice. I just need to sell this rust bucket as soon as I can. So now let's look at how this scenario could play out more mindfully. And in this second scenario, I realize I'm experiencing a lot of stress. So I start doing some deep breathing. And that signals to my parasympathetic nervous system that I'm coming out of fight or flight mode. And I'm safe in this moment. And that gives me some space to realize that the plenty of negative thoughts I'm having might not necessarily be true, and I don't know what's wrong with the car. So when the fire brigade have the situation under control, I really thank them for their brave work, and lo and behold, they don't charge me for the call out. And I decide I'll just call the tow truck and send the car off to a real mechanic so they can determine if it's worth keeping the car moving forward. So I hope you can see there are two very distinct ways of dealing with this scenario, or at least two very different headspaces. So one is a more mindful outcome, and the other is more about automatic behaviour and impulse.